Hey everyone, Mike Hidalgo here. Thank you for joining us on another FCP Euro DIY. Today, we're going to be working on this 99 Carrera 911 behind us. Today, we're going to be showing you how to replace the crank position sensor on this 911. A couple of reasons why you may want to look into this. If a crank position sensor is going bad, you're going to have something like a misfire, a hard start, poor engine timing, poor fuel timing, sometimes a no start at all. The ECU uses a crank position sensor to figure out engine timing as well as fuel injection. So without this sensor being operable, your car's not going to run or not run right. Before we get started on this DIY, let's take a look at a couple tools we're going to need for this job. For this DIY, we used a 3/8 ratchet, a 10mm socket, a hex 5mm, and a couple extensions. The extensions are just nice to have. You don't necessarily need to have such a long john like this one, but it helps. In addition to that, we're using this pick to help relieve the clip on the connector for the sensor. You can replace that with a little flathead screwdriver. Now we got the tools covered, let's go ahead and get this DIY started. All right, my good people, thank you for joining us at the car. Today we're going to be working on the lift. However, this is a job that you can do on the ground. Although the lift for us makes it a little bit easier for filming and, well, it's a lift, let's be real. Now, if you're doing this on the ground, you're going to want to work from the rear driver's side of the vehicle, jack it up, and take your rear wheel off just so you have better access of everything. If you're working on the ground, again, make sure you use the jack and jack stance, be as safe as possible. Now, for this job, we're going to need a 5mm hex to get our sensor off of the bell housing here. And then once we pull that off, you'll be able to see the hole where the flywheel teeth are, and that's what gives the signal to the sensor itself. So let's get into it. So we can do it one of two ways. We can do just the socket and the ratchet and try to get at the sensor here, or we can do a long extension. If you're working on the ground, you're probably going to want to do it with a long extension like this. But just for ease of filming, we're going to go ahead and use this so you guys can get a better view of what's going on. Bam, baby. Look at that. Now we got the bolt undone, we can go ahead and pull out the crank position sensor from the side of the block here. If you look in there, you can see the teeth that come off the flywheel. That's what sends the signal to the sensor itself. Next, we're going to go ahead and undo this black clip that holds the wire in line on the side of the block. These are a little bit funky. You just got to work it out, and it's going to split open just like that. Put our wire to the side. Next, we have this bracket up here that's held in place by a 10mm bolt. Before we take that off, we're going to just simply pull this other sensor that's routed in front of it off and over to the side. Just like that. We'll tuck that guy over there for now. Now we can go ahead and remove that 10mm bolt. And here's our 10mm bolt. One thing to note, along with that bracket, there is a ground strap on there, so just make sure you put on both when you put it back together. Now that that 10mm bolt's out, we can go ahead and push this ground strap off to the side and bring this bracket down with the connector. Now our next move is going to be to disconnect the sensor from the plug socket here. You want to push down on this tab. There we go, baby. Oh, easy. Pro tip, take a little pick or a flathead screwdriver, simply lift off on the tab on the engine side of the harness, try not to break it, and it'll come right out. From here, we can pull our sensor out. And prep the new one for install. Now that we have our sensor out, obviously it never hurts to compare the part before you go ahead and install the new one. We need to save this bracket and transfer it over to our new sensor. On the old one, you're going to have a little tab here. You're going to push down on it, which will free up this bracket, and then it slides off to the side. Just like that. We're going to make sure our new sensor is facing the same direction as the old one when this came off, and simply key it into place here. Slide it on, you can hear that tab pop back up. Now we're ready to reverse the removal process by installing. Now we can go ahead and plug our sensor back in. Can you one-hand this one? Oh yeah, that was satisfying. And from there, we can feed it back up into its home, just like that. And then when we put our bolt through, we want to make sure that ground strap sits over like so. We're going to take our 10mm bolt. If you can, feed it through the ground first, then feed it through the bracket. From here, we can go ahead and tighten down our bolt. It's going to be about 5 foot-pounds if you're going to torque it. We're just going to go ahead and snug it up. It's not much. Next, we're going to go ahead and route the cable back through this retaining clip and close it up. Don't forget to sneak your sensor that you removed off the bracket originally back into place here, just like that. And now we can go ahead and insert the sensor into its forever home. Same thing as our 10mm bolt. This doesn't take a lot of torque. We're going to snug it down by hand. However, no more than 5 to 7 foot-pounds is all it needs. Well, there you have it, my good people. As you can see, overall a pretty straightforward DIY. Of course, much easier on the lift, but definitely doable on the ground. A couple basic tools is all you need. If you guys like what you saw in this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comment about what we did today, leave those in the box below. And if you like this DIY, please consider subscribing. We make new ones all the time. As always, thank you for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.